Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for HR Isn't Just Compliance, It's Your Edge. And today I really hope that I can share with you how experiences will shape your brand as a company, your people, and ultimately your results. I'm April Winship. I went to USF and I have a bachelor's degree in management and MIS. What's that?
I said, woo,
Oh,
USF too.
Doubles. Yes, and my background does span HR, compliance, technology. I've been in HR over 20 years, and I do have the SHRM SCP, which, as many of you would know, is the Senior Certified Professional with the Society of Human Resource Management. This year, I'm privileged to be on the HR Tampa Board of Directors. I'm the Director of Chapter Programming, so I'm looking forward to helping HR professionals to make sure that we have the right speakers at our chapter meetings, and also we have an annual conference, so helping to plan for that and see what's going to provide the most value for our members. Just last year, I founded Dependable Edge, and Dependable Edge is an HR consulting company providing fractional HR, consulting, recruitment process outsourcing, pretty much anything HR I can help with, or at least try, and if not, I can send it out to someone who I know can. Obviously, I'm passionate about helping businesses build and keep great people and strong teams. To start today, I really wanted to kind of get some input from you, and I wanted to start with some questions. So the first one is, what would a current employee say about your organization? I do want you to take time and really think about that. Would anyone like to share, in their opinion, what they think a current employee would say about their organization? No volunteers? That's okay. I asked some people, and I'm going to share with you if you don't have any input for me, because I kind of thought that might happen. What about a candidate? Anyone know what a candidate? Think of a recent candidate that you had and their experience with your organization and what they would say. Would they go away saying, I'm never going to work there? They never even wrote me back. They never even called me. Anyone want to share? Anyone have anything? No? We need some more coffee.
Yeah, right.
And finally, what's that? You don't have employees?
I am my employees.
Okay.
I am my candidates.
We've got a few solo entrepreneurs in here, so that's hard because we don't have.
It is hard. I might have the wrong audience here, but so I may have the wrong presentation for the audience. I'm sorry.
It's so fascinating. Continue.
The thing is, I know, Elaine, that you have employees. And I know that as our businesses grow, we may get employees.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these principles are very important and can apply in many different situations. But when I think about former employees, I'm not just thinking of those that resigned, but those that also that were terminated. And what was that experience like, okay? Because it's all very important. Now, like I mentioned to you, I wasn't sure if you'd have any examples for me, so I actually went to some professionals. I'm talking director level, MVP level, and you're gonna be shocked to see what they said about the organizations that they're currently working in. Here's what they said. Obsolete operating procedures and small-minded board. A disconnect between workers and decision makers. Stuck in the past, no bandwidth for growth. I'm proud to work there, and unusually dedicated and high performing. Are you surprised? No? Janae is not. Of course you're not. I'm not either. It does go to show that we often don't know what our employees are really thinking. My goal today is that we will reframe HR, and we're going to no longer think of it as the necessary evil. Many people, Janae, we don't get invited to Christmas parties, right? So we don't want HR around, right? But instead, I want you to see HR as your competitive advantage, okay? I want you to realize that every experience becomes part of your brand. So who came here to learn about compliance today? Oh no, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We're not going to talk about ADA, FLSA, FMLA, E-Verify. We're not going to talk about any of that because to me, HR is your foundation. We're going to talk about that. Compliance is your foundation. But every every size business has different rules and things like that. I would strongly suggest an HR audit for anyone who has compliance concerns, and as you know, that is something Dependable Edge can offer, as well as others in the room. So, but like I said, compliance is the foundation of the business. Frankly, it's required and expected. Obviously, it reduces risk. And it's not something that's set it and forget it. We all know that laws change, things happen, but really it shows up every day. It shows up in how you communicate, how you respond, how you document, and really it's how you HR. Have you ever heard HR used as a verb like that? I like to say that people kind of get a little thrown off. So we're going to go beyond the foundation of compliance today, and we're going to really talk about what impacts the organization, and that's going to be the culture and authenticity. So to start, consistency. Consistency creates trust. Trust creates culture. Who's heard the quote about from Peter Drucker about culture? Does anyone know it? No? Peter Drucker was a management consultant who really believed that the day-to-day experiences of employees are really what predict the profitability and productivity of the organization. And what he said was, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So obviously that was the most important thing in his opinion. Of course, there are varying opinions on this, and strategy is very important too. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a good culture, your people probably aren't performing, at least not to the level that you want. Culture also, I want to tell you, is not what you say. It's not what you've written as your mission statement. It's not what you want to be. It's what's lived. It's what's experienced. And people, they need predictability. They don't need perfection. We don't have to worry about doing everything just right. But that predictability is, we've set these guidelines, these expectations. They know what to expect. And when they don't, it gets very confusing. Authenticity. This is something else that's very important. And as you can imagine, it definitely puts staff at ease. But I want to tell you, recently I was meeting with some friends. We were playing a game. And in the game, it said, what's the one trait that someone has that will immediately attract you to them or make you like them? Not in a way that's, amorous or anything like that. But I said authenticity. And I said that, my friend says, that's really hard to tell, April. And I'm like, but is it? But is it? Because when you're speaking with someone, don't you know if they're full of it or not?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's so evident. It really is. So as leaders, our employees see that also. And not just employees, anyone that we're talking to in the business community. If you're trying to get a new client and you're talking to them and you're not authentic, they see right through it, and they may not want to purchase from you because they know that someone else who they believe to be genuine and authentic is someone who they prefer to work with. Intent versus impact. I find this really interesting because good intentions don't cancel our poor experiences. I wanted to know if anyone here would want to share an example of intent versus impact, where something that they intended didn't go, had a different impact. Great.
Yeah. So this is not my intent, but I think it still speaks to what you're speaking to. So during my career, this is in corporate America, big business, a new senior executive had come in to a particular department, and it also goes back to your authenticity. And her intent and some of the things that she was doing, like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to you, I want to learn. Her intent was to learn about you, but it was totally inauthentic. And the impact that it had, long story short, is that there was a team reduction of 50% within like 3 months of this individual coming on board, because her intent was to get to know people, but she was inauthentic. And like you said, people could really see through that. So the impact, unfortunately, was not what she thought it would be, which was I'm going to build a team and get to know people.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I had an example in my back pocket, but it was quite embarrassing, so I'm so glad I didn't have to share it.
Well, now we want to know.
I don't think you really want to know.
We do. It's okay.
You do? I shared this presentation with my my husband and my son last night, and as I went through it, and then I gave my example, I'm like, should I not share that? And my husband's like, I think it's okay. So, but anyway, thank you. And then one other last comment my son made to me was that, well, Mom, you asked for feedback, and I got a little bit bored.
Oh, great.
So wake up. Please don't get bored. It gets better.
Still your phone.
Okay. All right, so once your organization decides it's time to hire someone, it's really important to hire for fit, right? One thing that we want to ask a series of questions. We want to ask, can this person succeed in this organization as we are now? Not as we wish we were. Because, again, when you marry someone, they're not going to be who you wish they were. It's as they are now. Is this going to work? Is this going to be a good fit for our organization? Do our values align? Or do we just like the person? Because likability fades. Misaligned values will not fade. And what will this person experience in the first 90 days in our organization? Think about that. What exactly are they going to experience? Are they going to be expected to travel extensively? Are they going to be behind a computer just, data entry? What their experience is going to be, think about, would you like that experience? If the answer is no, they're probably not going to like it either. So really think about that as you develop or come up with the experience that you want them to have in those first 90 days. And then what about when things get tough? Can you picture this person by your side when things get tough? Are you going to still be excited to manage that person when things get tough? Because that's the real test of fit. How are you going to work together when things aren't perfect? Because often in business, they're not. Now, how do we find this right fit? There's a few different things in HR that we're known for, right? We want to understand the people. And how do we do that? One, interviews. What do interviews teach us? Any thoughts on what you get out of interviews when you interview someone? Elaine?
It kind of gives you, I'm just looking for a vibe really,
Mm-hmm.
like what I get from them maybe is authenticity.
Absolutely. Also, communication skills. You're going to see, is this the kind of person I want representing my company? We always want to take away this nervous factor that they may have, and maybe this isn't their authentic self because they're nervous. But it's definitely going to teach us a lot there. And then there are those assessments that we can give. Not all organizations give them, and they're not always needed for all roles. But those assessments are going to be the objectivity that we need, right? They're going to help us in determining other things. And then finally, there could even be simulations. Simulations are going to be reality. This is what the job is like. If the person's going to sit there and do the simulation and they can't figure it out, I used to do a simulation for a logistics role, and it had to do with a container and how much it's going to fit in there, and the date that it was going to be ready. And I would have the person read the pro forma and then tell me what it said. And it really was all there. But could they decipher that? And then finally, once we've gone through and kind of have someone in mind that we really like, we're going to validate our decision, right? And references is one way we can do that. Does everyone here, I know that you don't all hire, but think about past roles that you were in. Did they check references? Why do you laugh today?
No,
Tell
I
me.
don't.
I want to
I
know.
know. Please talk more about references and the importance of it. I think that's one thing. I I can tell you, in my experience, so many employers, they say they check references. I can't tell you how many clients I walked into, oh yeah, we get references. They've never checked one. They've never checked the background at all.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, it's scary, and it's
100%, I agree with you.
God.
I agree with you. I'm so glad that we're in sync because Janae and I are both in HR
Right.
and we both understand the importance and value of this. And there are many people, many business owners who go, I like the person. It doesn't matter what happened in the past.
Right.
But those references, they're going to validate patterns. They're going to show us how that person showed up and how they're likely to show up in the future, right?
I have a question for you. How often are you seeing now inflated resumes that are just pure
AI.
AI? They're either purely AI or they're purely just, I'm trying to really say this a very nice way. They're an absolute lie.
Yes. No, very often.
Yeah.
Very often. And I'm sure if we look up the stats, it's going to be definitely over 50%. I would say over 75%. People are taught, I need to put on my, best
That's terrible.
thing. I need to get in. A lot of times the AI is used up front to filter out candidates. So they're trying to do their best to make sure they're not filtered out. But there are other ways that candidates can make sure that they're not filtered out. They can go above and beyond. Go ahead.
With the importance of references, I recently was in a class and the teacher had a table set up that had a couple of books that they had written. And they had all of these awards around there for best this, best that, QR codes that would take you to websites with all of these rave reviews around the books and all this kind of stuff. And towards the end of the class, he was like, so, have you guys noticed all the awards that I've won for my books and everything? And everybody was like, yeah, that's really great. That's really amazing. And he was like, yeah, every single one of these is fake. He's like, I purchased every single one of these awards myself. I used AI to, within 5 minutes, create entire websites around how amazing my books are and all of the people who have read them and the rave reviews.
Wow.
He's like, all of this is fake. Not a single one of them are real. So you have to be real careful how much trust you put in an award, in a review, in what somebody tells you about what they've done.
That's amazing. But I am shocked that people don't check references. The last person I had worked for did check my references. I mean, it's so important because you need to know, what's their work history? Do they come to work late all the time? Do they not, I'm shocked that
I'm working with a new client now and they have not checked references. And, a very respectable company, and I have a lot of respect for them. But they didn't know what they didn't know, right? And they thought that they were doing the best for their organization. But there's so many things that we uncover in references. And many times people would tell me, well, why? And, in the US, if you just call for a reference, they're not going to be able to tell you anything anyway. That's not true.
No.
What, and I, to build on that, you may think they don't tell you anything, but, and I don't know about you, but when I was, putting in my, in those, my first initial years where I was the person calling references because, you call somebody, right? And you should still, but,
Absolutely.
the one thing, a lot of HR departments, they're just gonna give you dates of employment and whether or not they are rehirable. That right there, they're not rehirable, like, it takes a lot. Quite frankly, it does. It takes a lot not to be rehirable anymore. And they may not give you more information. They may. It just depends.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, that's one of the most telling is, are they rehirable? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
And I can always go back to the candidate and say, hey, what happened here? Are you going to get the truth? I don't know.
Right. That's a very valid point. And I can tell you many times you don't get the truth. There were simple things. I remember people saying that they had degrees and then you go to hire them and you go and you do your background check, which is going to come up next, is something that we do. And they didn't have a degree. And they just completely
How do you
lied.
fudge that? That's so verifiable.
That is so verifiable.
You just
Again,
hope that they're too busy to verify.
Well, yes, that's your hope. In this particular instance, the person was based in another country, and the practices in that country it never came around. He'd been, very high level executive for years, and it just never came up.
Wow.
And we knew him, And then when he applied at the organization and we verified, he ghosted us after we approached him, you know, because he was embarrassed. Finally got caught in his lie, you know. It's crazy. Back to the references, I did want to mention that you'll never know what you don't ask, you know. And I always like to ask questions and you know, encourage employers to ask questions that they want to know the answers to. It doesn't matter if someone says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable answering that." No problem, move on. I find many people overshare.
Oh, yeah.
I had someone who once said, you know, oh, my last question was usually, is there anything else that you'd like to share with me about Janae that I haven't asked already? And then they, oh, well, I think I've already overshared probably, but there is just one more thing. And again, background checks, they're going to give us that reassurance, that final reassurance that we need that this is the right person. And I believe that there is an order to these processes, right? I believe that I don't believe in checking references before I've done an interview. I don't believe, you know, before I know that I'm interested in this person, I don't think it's fair to check references. There are employers who want to, though, who say, I just want to get it out of the way. I want to know. I know this person they worked with. If they have bad things to say, I don't want to continue. But how fair is that to the individual?
It's not, because it could be a personality conflict kind of thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, for years I've used an analogy, and that analogy was about seats on a bus. And thanks to AI, thank you ChatGPT for taking my analogy and putting it in a picture here, because what I always said was, it's important to get the right people on the right seats with the right bus driver behind the wheel. Because one, people are not going to perform if they're in the wrong position. They're not going to perform well if they're not, you know, if their role is not aligned with their skills. Also, if the leader is not working well, then that's not going to work either. So even the best performers are going to not succeed if they're not in the right role or working under the wrong leadership. So getting it right, it really makes everyone's experience better. The candidate experience. This is one of the ones that people often overlook. I'm curious if you or someone you know have ever applied for a job and never heard back.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Happens all the time.
All the time.
What kind of impression does that leave about the company?
Not good.
What about receive just an automated reply and then nothing else?
Yes.
Same.
And with AI, this is happening more and more and more. There's no personalization to it. What about being interviewed without realizing it was AI? You've all heard of that, right?
No.
This has happened.
Really?
There are cases where someone jumped on an interview, looked like a human they were talking to, and then all of a sudden,
They probably like it.
so
Wow.
again, what impression have we left?
Wow, that's
We don't
terrible.
have time for you.
Exactly.
April, how are you coaching your clients? Like through, and I probably interrupted you too.
That's
soon.
okay.
I'm
No,
sorry.
Please.
You know, coaching them through not, you know, I think AI is great, right? You
Yes.
I use AI, I love it. How do you coach them in applying AI so that they're not tarnishing that candidate experience?
I definitely focus on people first because people like to talk to people. So yes, I believe that AI can play a role in the initial filtering. AI can help with those assessments and things like that. There can be knockout questions that can help us narrow down. Because, you know, if you look and you have 150 candidates, it may not be realistic that you call 150 people, right? But if you can narrow down that candidate pool and AI helps you with that, and maybe you do have an automated email that says, thank you for your application. We have reviewed this, and if you qualify, you know, if we think there's a match, we're gonna reach out. Now they know that you may not necessarily hear back from this organization, but once you get to a point that you're truly interested, I believe that people need to be involved. And I do share that sentiment. And that's part of what I think organizations like Dependable Edge and Dunedin HR can offer, you know?
But can you, you can filter through that, so can you upload people, are you uploading people's resumes and asking chat to pick through all of those and say, what are the best
No,
candidates?
absolutely not.
Okay, because legally you can't put all their information into
No,
AI, right?
no, you wouldn't.
Okay.
There are tools out there that you can do things, and then also, like, even with LinkedIn, when you post a job on LinkedIn, you can tell LinkedIn what your requirements are, and it can filter it out for you. And then you can put those knockout questions in there, and then you can say, I still want to see everybody, or you can say, I only want to see those people who meet those requirements.
Yeah, like one thing I do, I have a client and one of their insurance requires for certain roles that they'll be driving. So for those roles, like when I do those roles for them, one of the knockout questions in the applicant tracking system that I use, and I actually only have one at that point, is one of the knockout questions is, do you have a valid Florida driver's license? Because it covers a very legal bona fide requirement for the job. So that's how it knocks them out. So
Yeah.
I don't get, it narrows down from 150, like you said, it'll narrow down from 150, maybe down to 75. And then if there's another bona fide requirement,
Yes.
I'll go in and put that in to filter out further.
How do you look confused?
No, it's just, I'm just thinking, it's no wonder why they're using all of these tools and AI, and if you have one job and you have 150 applicants, that's a crazy lot of things to go through.
And there are some employers who have a lot more than 150
Oh,
Right,
applicants.
that's right, that's just one
Especially
small,
remote.
yeah.
Thousands.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
like
how
I
do
said,
you stand?
but like I said, there are tools, and
Yeah.
there's a company, I'm trying to remember, it's an AI company, I think it's called Eat More Pies, and they did a presentation at one of the SHRM meetings recently, and they talked about how they have this system where it's doing all that in the back end and then giving you, who they think is a fit. There are flaws with the system, though, I will tell you that, but sometimes when you have thousands of candidates, you have to figure out, hey, I need to do something because they don't have the manpower to go
Right.
through every one of these. Every candidate walks away with a story, though, no matter what that experience was, right? And we really want, them to walk away with a good experience and determine that they would recommend us, for someone else to apply there, or maybe even apply again. Many times applicants will apply again and again and again, and sometimes employers go, wow, this person has applied 10 times in 10 years, I think they really want to work here. Maybe, even though I interviewed them 5 years ago, maybe something's changed. Maybe I should really look at them now because they would probably be a good advocate for the company if they really want to work here that bad. And the worst case scenario, maybe they're going to walk away and either talk bad about you or just not talk about you at all. Who remembers this? In the movies. In the movie, silence is golden, right? We want everyone to shh so we can hear the movie. But that's not what our candidates want. They want to know where they stand. Otherwise, they're going to make up a story in their mind of where they stand or why you're not responding to them. In reality, you could be so busy that you haven't responded, but they're still very much in consideration. And it's not fair that you've kept them in the dark because they're thinking, okay, I'm going to think the worst. They must not like me. I'm going to move on. I'm going to come here to this company. And guess what? Many times, I'm sure Janae has happened to you, many times you go back to that candidate when you're ready to talk to them. Oh, I'm sorry, I just accepted another position. So your timeliness, your silence, it is golden. It's going to tell a lot. And remember that candidate experience it's not an HR issue. It's a reputation issue. We're going to move on to employee experience. And employee experience, it's not about the perks. It's not about the free coffee. It's not about the gym that you offer your employees. What's it about? It's about how people feel every day. So when was the last time you gave unexpected positive feedback? Think about anything. Again, I asked my family this last night. So even my 13-year-old son. So can you think of a time when you gave unexpected positive feedback? Anyone want to share?
My day job is actually corporate training, and I have been working on a project with one of our other teams that also does training on helping them to be better trainers and providing them with better materials and things along those lines. And so part of what I've been doing recently is observations where they have to do a practice presentation for me, and I have to give them feedback on what they need to improve on and things along those lines. And one gentleman came to his presentation completely unprepared and knew he was unprepared, and at the end was just like, I'm really sorry, like I expected this to be easier, and as soon as I started I knew that it wasn't going to be. I was like, I could tell, but you didn't bomb everything. Like, there are definitely things that can be improved upon, that you can know that you need to prepare ahead of time, that these are the things that you naturally do well that you can really lean into. And he was like, oh, thank you. Like, I didn't realize I did anything right. I was like, yeah, it wasn't all terrible. Some of it was really bad, but not all of it. So let's talk about the things we can improve upon.
That's awesome.
That's great. You found a positive in that situation, even though it wasn't perfect. You found something to give them back.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. When was the last time someone on your team felt truly heard? Oftentimes they don't. We're so busy barking orders, right, as leaders. Do this, do that. But we're not listening. Not always.
And and to your point, I just yesterday one of my clients has a brand new manager. They're not new to that type of role, but they're new to that organization. And I had popped in to kind of go over, it's the first time he's been in an organization that size and in this kind of specific niche. And I said, when you're bringing in this team, let's not step in and go gung-ho, right? Let's first get to know this team. Yes, they are your team by the nature of your title, right? But you need to learn who these team members are. And I went through like a quick, like his, because he's going to do weekly one-to-ones. I said, let's keep them short, but let's focus on, this topic, this topic, this topic. And I kind of ran through what would be my recommendation for each one of those weeks where he sits down. And I said exactly what you said, is listen more than you're speaking. And he did start that day with one of his team members, and it was great because before I left that day yesterday, he came and he said, that was wonderful, thank you. And he's been in this type of role for 20 years. So I thought that was really positive for him.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead, Eileen.
I feel like this is all applicable to being a parent also.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously.
It's so true. It is so true.
Yeah.
Many times people don't like that analogy when you think about the business, but I think it's so true.
Yeah.
It is.
So I'm like, when have I given positive feedback?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's interesting.
You should have asked your son about positive feedback for your presentation.
Actually, you're right. Positive feedback, because I got the feedback, but it wasn't positive. But no, actually, I got some really good feedback, and they helped me change some things. So that was good. Do you most often focus on employee strengths or weaknesses? Again, you can apply this to your children.
Definitely weaknesses. My son, I'm always like,
Right.
like I mean, just the other day I said to him, not really happy with your grades, but you have an amazing heart. Like so he does.
Yeah.
He would like give his shirt off his back for anybody, but.
Well, there you did focus on a strength. So that's good. It's hard. Yeah. How does it make us feel, though, when someone talks about our strength, versus our weakness? Obviously, it's important to know that weakness, if that weakness needs to be improved. And I say that because there's so many studies on strengths and weaknesses, and if we focus on weaknesses only, we're really not utilizing the strengths that the person has.
Well, it's kind of like some people will say, like, if you're going to write someone a letter, or if you're going to talk about something, start with your positives, then discuss what it is that needs help or work on, and then end with a positive. So I
That
think
sandwich approach.
that same thing can be applied, you know what I mean? Start
Yeah.
with positive and talk about the weaknesses and then end with
Right.
strength. And I think that helps put people in a better frame of mind to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and they do have to be ready to hear. If they're not ready to receive
Yeah,
your
don't just
message,
shut right down.
retention is often lost in small moments. Those little things that happen, the missed feedback that you didn't get, you know, the time that you didn't listen to what they had to say. You may not realize it, just like those executives that I shared with you what they were thinking. Do you think their employers, when I reached out to those executives, one of them said, "Are you putting our name and company on this?" I said, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
Absolutely not, because that's not fair, and you know, that wasn't the point of this presentation. This presentation is so that you know that people are thinking the things that you don't know.
I also think that a good leader will listen to what you have to say, because we're the ones in the trenches doing the work every day, dealing with the clients, doing all of this stuff. When
Right.
the leader's just there making the decisions, signing the paychecks, it's like you've got to be open to our feedback because we're the ones in the trenches.
Absolutely,
You know?
Patty, and that's what one of the people said. Remember, there's a disconnection between the people who do the work and the leaders.
And to that point, a lot of there, and what in April, maybe you've seen as well, a lot of times leaders don't realize how disconnected they've become.
Yeah.
Like they just don't, and it's because they're in the busyness of that, and it's surprising, and if you can carry the message to them about, hey, this is what I'm hearing, you know, those good, strong leaders they will hear the message and they will try to improve. But it is
Absolutely.
amazing, not in a negative way, in an enlightening way, that they don't realize that disconnect has happened.
I'll never forget, I was managing a logistics team, and I had asked a question on one of the team meetings, and like, so is this are we still doing it this way? And the person said to me, "Wow, you really have been out of this for a while, haven't you? Because we haven't done it that way in a while." And it really helped me to realize, yeah, they've gone on, they've improved the system. I need to keep up and I need to understand what they're doing, but I need to trust them to do what they can do the best. Now, I wanted to share a quick story here, because when we look at strengths and seeing the potential in someone, I think this example kind of brings it to light. There was an employee at an organization that was really most administrative and sales professionals working at that organization. And this employee was an administrative assistant. She did her job really well, and she really was very tech savvy though. She liked numbers, she liked data, and she would often go and do spreadsheets or say, "Why do we look at this but not this? And maybe we should look at this." And the company finally was like, "Well, that's not part of your role, but this adds value." One day, leadership decided this employee, let's call her Amy, really isn't an admin assistant anymore. Amy can be a role that we've never had, a business analyst. They didn't go out and hire a business analyst that had all the experience and education behind it, but they hired someone on their team. So instead of adding people, they saw people on their team differently, and they decided there's a role that can benefit her and the company. She's gonna grow and we're gonna grow. And it was really exciting. This employee stayed with the organization for a really long time, continued to grow and excel, but it was really cool to see this position that didn't even exist came to fruition because the employee had a strength that management finally saw.
But that's it. I mean, I think I love that example, and I think that goes back to that company's culture.
Yes,
You know, you're talking about culture in the beginning, that speaks to their culture. I
absolutely.
love that.
So when we talk about the people, we know that feedback is important. And I can't wait to hear your feedback on my presentation later, because it sounds like that's what you do all the time, and I would just love it. So remember that feedback is a gift. It is an act of kindness and generosity. It helps people to build confidence. It takes away the fear. You know, if I'm getting the feedback, if I know the expectations, I'm no longer fearful. I know what's expected of me, right? Ignoring feedback, it just creates confusion. If you're not telling someone what they should be doing, how are you expecting that they do it? Has that ever happened to you guys? Because I've been in organizations where that's happened. People, well, why don't they do this? Well, have you told them? Well, no, but don't you think they should know that?
Oh, that's
I
funny.
think you should tell them.
Yeah.
Maybe they should, but do you have mind reading classes?
Right. But how willing are you to receive feedback as a leader? Are you open to receiving or just giving? Do you ask for feedback?
Mhm.
I'm asking for it now, so.
Yeah.
Oftentimes that missed feedback does lead to disengagement,
Oh, yeah.
and many times resignation can be on the horizon. So it really is important to remember that feedback, it's not criticism, it's information, it's a gift that we owe our employees in all reality. Go ahead.
Kind of on that topic, kind of blending the two things that I do actually, we forget a lot of times the stories that people play in their own heads.
Yes.
Because we see somebody's work and we're like, oh, they're doing a great job, and we just move on thinking they're doing a great job, they know they're doing a great job. Meanwhile, they're going, nobody ever tells me anything. Am I doing good? Am I gonna get fired?
Absolutely.
So they need that reassurance
Yeah.
to know what they're doing well, what they need to improve on, how they're doing on the things you told them to improve on. Because we just think, kind of like you were saying with the mind reading, we think they know they're doing a good job, they know we're happy with their performance,
Yeah.
but they don't know anything until we tell them, and we don't know what their mind is coming up with as a result of what we are not telling them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So former employees, remember to separate with dignity. Whether it's a difficult, departure or an easy one, you would think that when someone resigns, that would be much easier than terminating someone, right? But have you ever had leadership who pretty much guilted the person? I can't believe you're leaving after all we've done for you. But remember, that person is a brand ambassador for the company, whether you believe it or not. When they walk away, they have a story that they've told themselves about your company, and they're not going to keep that story to themselves. So engage them respectfully. Everyone deserves it. People are the backbone of our business, whether we want to believe it or not. We all have this great product. What we're doing is great. But at the end of the day, if the people that are servicing our customers are not friendly, kind, are not customer service oriented, it's not going to be a successful business. So engage them respectfully, as we want to be engaged respectfully. And remember that alumni can be your greatest advocate or your biggest critic. Thinking about former employees that you've had, would they refer someone to work at your organization? I asked my husband this and he said no. But a high performer who feels dismissed, they might never return. They might, but they're still going to tell others about you, right? So, and there are boomerang employees. That happens. I've seen it happen at an organization where the person came back twice. So obviously they liked the company, and they must have left on good terms. So I hope today that you've, the presentation about HR isn't just compliance, it's your edge, has resonated with you. I hope that you realize that the experience that the employee, the candidate, the former employee has is the edge. We all know that Maya Angelou quote there. I won't repeat it, but it is so true. We all remember how someone made us feel, right? But think about if your company were reviewed tomorrow, not on policies or performance, but on experience. What would the review say? And walking away today, I'd like for you to think about one thing that you'd like to improve, one experience you'd like to improve in your organization. Would it be the responsiveness to candidates, the onboarding, the manager check-ins, the exit conversations, the giving of unexpected positive feedback, focusing on strengths, whatever it is. I hope that you'll take that away with you. And I hope that you'll remember that compliance protects your business, but experience defines it. And experience done right, that's your edge. Thank you. Any questions?
I think I can take some of those same terms when you use it for candidates and things like that and apply it to my clients. What do my clients say? What
Yes.
kind of reviews do I get? Would they come back again? Would they recommend me to their friends? That kind of thing.
I think that's very true. And I think that feedback for me is that I could make this more broad for my audience so that it
Oh, yeah.
applies better.
Mhm.
So thank you. Any
Yeah.
other questions? Thank you so much.
That was
Thank
so
you.
thorough
Thank
and
you.
well done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.